shine with you, with you, with you. I got my head out the sunroof, I'm blasting my favorite tunes. I only got one thing on my mind. You got me stuck on the thought of you. You're making me feel brand new. You're more than a sunshine in my eyes. La 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 la. La 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 la. Hey, 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 hey. Needless to say, I keep a check. She was a bad bad, nevertheless. Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. Crash at my place, baby, you're a wreck. Needless to say, I'm keeping a check. She was a bad bad, nevertheless. Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. Crash at my place, baby, you're a wreck. Digging in a bad way, losing your grip. Screaming at my face, baby, don't trip. Someone took a big L, don't know how that felt. Looking at you sideways, party on tilt. Ooh, certain things you just can't refuse. She wanna ride me like a cruise, and I'm not trying to lose. Then you're left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're a sunflower. I think your love would be too much, or you'd be left in the dust, unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. You're the sunflower. Every time I'm leaving on you, you don't make it easy, no. Wish I could be there for you. Give me a reason to home. Every time I'm walking out, I can hear you telling me to turn around. Fighting for my trust and you won't back down. Even if we gotta risk it all right now. I know you're scared of the unknown. You don't wanna be alone. I know I always come and go, but it's out of my control. And you'll be left in the dust unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. I think your love would be too much, or you'll be left in the dust unless I stuck by you. You're the sunflower. You're the sunflower.
Welcome everyone to the first round of TED Talks for the professional presentations class. We're super excited to have you all here, and we're just going to go ahead and open with an opening prayer from Tony, and then we'll get started. Tony?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful to be united here as a class to be able to listen to these TED Talks and to learn and improve our skills for professional presentations. We're grateful for Brother Hackey and his preparation and for the speakers who are going to give their talks today. Bless them, Father. Help them to be able to be guided by the Spirit as they're up here giving these talks. Help them to perform well and to not be as nervous as they could be. We're grateful for the many blessings you give us, Father, and we're grateful for Jesus Christ. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. For our first speaker, we will have Leah Anderson. Leah is a visual communication student who also has a great passion for music. She started taking piano lessons when she was 9 and began learning the clarinet when she was 12. She also likes to sing and actually sang at the April General Conference of this year. Currently, she plays clarinet in the Heritage Youth Symphony, piano for her ward choir, and keyboard and sings backup vocals in a local indie band called Straight Away. Everyone, let's welcome Leah Anderson.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood.
Thank you. Okay, when you think about high school stereotypes, who do you think has the worst high school stereotype? Maybe it's the jocks, maybe the cheerleaders. What about the band kids? The band kids have a reputation that definitely precedes them. I took a survey to find out what people think of when they hear the term band kid, and the results did not surprise me. A lot of the results included negative words. 67% of them actually included words that were negative. And some of those words included socially inept, awkward, cringy, and making out in the hallway was mentioned a few times. Given that that is the stereotype, I took it as a compliment when people were like, "Oh, I didn't realize that you were in band." But I was definitely a band kid in high school. I'm even wearing my band shirt today. And because of this experience I've had, I want to teach you guys that there's a little bit more to band than you may realize. They're culture builders, they're leaders, and they're disciplined. When we talk about culture in the context of organizations, we're talking about the shared beliefs, shared values, and the personality of a high-performing group. And one way to build culture is through shared experiences and shared suffering, even. In band, we would spend hours and hours practicing every week, roughly 20 hours a week, and that doesn't even count the times where we had a day-long competition at the end of our week. For those of you who are in my professional presentations class, you understand what it's like to have shared experiences and grow closer with people. We came into this class, didn't know each other's names, and now we know each other's names, hobbies, interests, and even some of the intimate details of our lives because we share them through speeches. And if you're not in this class, I'm sure you've also had experiences with friend groups or other people where the more experiences you share together, the closer you grow together. Another fantastic thing about band is that it's for everyone. There's a place for everyone. It's made of all kinds of people. And because of this culture of friendship and being welcoming, we're able to help each other out. There was this one day, and it was a competition day, very end of our season, and one of our flute players unexpectedly had a seizure. She dropped to the floor in the middle of lunch. She was not able to perform later in our competition. So we decided we're going to dedicate our performance to her because she wasn't able to perform. And we had the best performance we had had all season. We won that competition. And it's not just because we worked hard, but it's also because we decided to dedicate it towards someone in our group. Because we have this culture of being welcoming and loving to each other, we were able to grow closer and achieve our goals. Band is also about winning. There's a part of it that if you're putting that much effort into something like that, you want to win. We have a culture of being champions. We're taught to practice the way we want to perform. My directors are always said that if you practice like champions, then you'll perform like a champion. And even if all you can do is put forth champion level effort, then that's fantastic. That's the expectation. There's this quote, and I really love it. It's from a book called The School Culture Rewind. It says, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior that its leaders are willing to tolerate. Culture is something that happens naturally, and band kids are great at creating a welcoming culture. But it's up to the leaders to determine the type of culture that you want to have in a group. Leadership is about bringing people to a higher position, making them better than they were before. It's about leading by example. It's about serving others. How are these socially inept, awkward kids supposed to be leaders? Well, a lot of it is baked into the way that band is organized. There are student-led positions that students can interview for and be put into. At the very top, we have our drum majors. Those are the people who are waving their arms in front of the group, making sure we're all staying in time. But they're also the ones who are making sure that we have the tone set correct for all of our performances and practices to make sure that we're all achieving our goals. Underneath them are captains. They're the ones who are in charge of specific groups within the band. So there would be a captain for the percussion or a captain for the woodwinds, for example. Their job is to look out for the section leaders, who are over a smaller portion of the band. They're over an individual section group, an instrument group. So the section leaders, if you played saxophone, then you would have a saxophone section leader. They're the ones who make sure that you're practicing and learning everything that you need to. Underneath them, new member mentors. With new people coming into the band every semester, you want to make sure that they're a part of our culture, that they understand the marching, they understand the music, because that's quite a learning curve. So that's their job, to make sure that they feel like they're a part of the group. Underneath them, we have the quartermasters. The quartermasters are the ones who make sure that our equipment is in all the right places and that we've tidied up spaces after we leave them, leaving things better than we found it. And that's fantastic because that gives a lot of kids opportunities to be leaders when they may not otherwise have those chances. But there's not enough roles for everybody to have a title. So what do we do then? Luckily, leadership is not just about titles or being put in a specific position. It's about the way that you are able to help each other. And it doesn't mean that you need to have a title. There's a study done by the University of Idaho, and it suggests that leadership is 30% genetic and 70% experience. You notice how it didn't have titles as part of that? One great thing about band is, going back to that culture a little bit, there's a culture of leadership. Those quartermasters I was telling you about, the ones who make sure all of our equipment gets into the right places, there's never enough of them to move all of our props, all of our equipment, all of our instruments. So it was up to the band members to step up. Remember, leadership is about service and leading by example. So band members, no matter what their leadership titles were, or if they had one, no matter what their experience was, they were able to have opportunities to step up and be leaders. Leadership is a learned thing. And if you want to learn something and be good at it, then you need to practice at it. And practice means discipline. Discipline has to do with practice, repetition, and it's about doing things that you know you need to do, especially when you don't want to do it. Learning an instrument is a big part of being in band, obviously. And it's not easy. Put your hand up if you play an instrument, if you've ever learned an instrument. Keep your hand up if it was easy to learn and easy to practice. Okay, everybody put their hand down. It's hard, right? Raise your hand if you've ever started learning an instrument, but like never really got good enough at it to be like, oh yeah, I play guitar, right? You started learning it and then you're like, holy crap, this is harder than I thought, right? Let me show you some of the music that I had to learn my freshman year in band. I heard a gasp over here. That's exactly right. The non-musicians are looking at this and they're like, oh my gosh, that's really overwhelming. And then the musicians are looking at it and they're like, oh my gosh, that's really overwhelming. This is not easy stuff to learn. And on top of just learning how to play this, you have to memorize it and play it while you're marching. It's not easy stuff, guys. It takes lots of practice and discipline. And if you want to talk about practice and discipline, I have to talk about band camp. Band camp is a week in the middle of the summer, and it is brutal. I dreaded it every year. And I want you to imagine what it's like. Close your eyes, and I'm describe it a little bit to you. Imagine you're standing outside in the South Carolina heat. It's like 100 degrees, maybe more, and it's humid. You're gross, you're sweating. You've been at band practicing for 8 hours today. That means you still have 4 hours left. Your legs hurt because you've been marching and running around all day. Your arms hurt because you've been holding an instrument all day. And your brain hurts because you're trying to learn, where do I go in the field, and memorize that. Trying to learn your music, memorize that, and then put it together and memorize that. Okay, open your eyes. Whose mind was blown by that, right? Yeah, it's not easy stuff. It's very physically demanding. It's very mentally demanding. And the only way that you can get good at that is through discipline and practice. And because of the intensity of band, it forces you to be disciplined. Now that you understand a little bit more about band kids, you can see them for who they really are. You can see the other side of the story. You understand that band kids are not just the stereotype we talked about earlier. They're also culture builders because they share experiences with each other. They're given opportunities to lead, and they're disciplined because of the intense practices that they have to go through. So the next time you see one of those videos that's making fun of band kids about how cringy they are and how they always are making out in the hallways, remember the other side of them. Remember that there's more to band kids than meets the eye. I bet that if I was to do my survey again and ask, what words come to your mind when you think of a band kid? I think we'd have a lot more well-informed and positive responses when describing a band kid.
Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk around the neighborhood. Feeling blessed.
Thank you, Leah. I think lots of people are going to start playing instruments now. But next up, we have Lexi Johnson. Lexi is 23 years old and is an Idaho Falls native. She's getting ready to graduate in strategic organizational communications this coming spring. She's worked in general management, project management, and now the real estate industry. This summer, she began at Alliance Title and Escrow, a company that provides both title insurance and closing services for real estate transactions. She's excited to share what she's learned while working in the industry. Lexi and her husband, Kyle, are actively working towards buying a home together and are confident that she and the rest of our generation can buy a home. Everyone welcome Lexi.
Hi! Hello! Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today. Like Valiant said, I have learned a lot from my new job, and so I felt like our generation was the perfect audience to try to teach some of these principles and give some education today. So hopefully you can learn something. Gen Z can buy a home. I really do believe that, but many of us may have been guilty of this phrase right here. I will never be able to afford a home. This is something that I have been guilty of saying. Many of you I have heard have also said that, especially in more recent years. Inflation has been devastating. It has, I think, overtaken many of our lives and our thoughts, and we feel kind of hopeless right now. And so I'm here to share a message of hope and motivation that we will be able to succeed and to buy homes like the generations before us. And so why is this wrong? We will be able to afford a home. We have already gone through, as Generation Z, some very challenging things, and we have proven ourselves to be resilient and adaptable. We have overcome COVID-19, the Great Recession of 2008. We were born, most of us, around the time of 9/11. We've had some challenges, and so we are ready to overcome. We also have more access to financial education than ever before. Our parents' generation did not have the internet. They were not able to just Google how to buy a home, what interest rates are right now. Google wasn't a thing back then, and so we are so blessed where we have the opportunity to educate ourselves and take that initiative if it's not taught to us by our parents or the public school system. And today we're going to go over some specific numbers. You guys are going to see what a mortgage payment really looks like. So I think that understanding that the number was real and tangible and I could make progress toward it helped me feel peace and confidence in my ability to reach this goal, which I have not reached yet, but I will, and so can you. Alrighty, so we're going to talk about some knowledge is power and preparation. So learning the material along with taking actions towards the steps of buying a home will get us there. All right, I've told you that you can buy a home, but why would you want to? There are some real benefits of home ownership. The first being building equity. This is so crucial and important. This is how we build wealth. If you choose to rent an apartment for all your life, you are throwing that money away. You will never see it again. It is not in your pockets. It will be in your landlord's. But if you choose to buy a house, obtain a mortgage, pay back a lender, when you sell your house, that money is yours. You get to keep the $100,000 that you have been paying for years and years and years towards the principal of your mortgage. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to start thinking about now. You also get pride from buying a home. That should instill a huge sense of confidence and accomplishment in you. You also have the freedom to personalize your home, whereas if you were renting, you may not have that ability to do so. And you also typically have less space in a home, or excuse me, more space in a home, and you are farther away from your neighbors. You also have stability, whereas your landlord can up the rent year to year, month to month. I'm sure that many of you have felt that in recent years. Alrighty, so let's talk about the critical factors that you can prepare for now. There's 5 of them. The first thing being income. All of us are in college today to hopefully get a better, be able to come out of college with a better income. A stable income is needed to obtain that mortgage. Lenders do check your finances and will verify your job history to make sure that you will be able to continue making payments towards them. Next is down payment. The magic number is 20%. If you can get 20% down on a house, you will not have to pay mortgage insurance, which is another additional fee on your mortgage payment monthly. So the magic number is 20, but most lenders do require at least 3%. If you don't meet the 20% requirement initially when you do buy a house, you are able to refinance or appraise your house once you have put 20% into the mortgage so that you can get that mortgage insurance eliminated. Credit score. Credit score, the magic number is 680. It is also 2 to 3 years. So what I mean by that is that if you have never borrowed money before or had a credit card, 2 to 3 years before you plan to buy a home is a great time to start that process and start building your credit history, because that is a huge component of your credit score. Now, another factor to consider in your preparations is the cost of living in an area. Here in Idaho Falls, it's going to be much cheaper, in Rexburg, I guess, much cheaper than if you were to live in San Francisco. If you wanted to buy a home in San Francisco, that's going to be a very, very different story. And so where you live, your local real estate market does matter. Now on to interest rates. I'm going to show you some examples of this, of the interest rates from the last 4 years. but many things can influence interest rates. There's not a lot of things that we can do personally to prepare for them besides watching them and being aware what the interest rates are today, because they will affect your mortgage payment. Here we have the last 4 years from 2020 to 2024. This was a little dip this summer. This is where we are now. Unfortunately, it's nothing like what it was right after the COVID pandemic. We had some people got really lucky with some great rates then. They're locked in, and they say, I'm never gonna sell my house. I'm locked in because they got some great rates. We are not in that situation, but things like the election, watching the Federal Reserve, the economy and its strength, all of these things affect interest rates, and so we need to be vigilant and hope for the best. All right, let's go over the steps on how to buy a home. Now that you are financially prepared, once you have a stable job, you've got some money saved up for a down payment, you're feeling like you've got your legs underneath you, it's time to get pre-approved. This is a serious step and it will affect your credit, and so make sure that you are ready before you go into a lender or a mortgage broker to get that magic number from them. So what the pre-approval process is you go into a lender and you give them all of your financial history, your information, your job. They make sure you have job security, and they say, hey, you know what? Let's do this. You're pre-approved for $300,000. So that is the number that you can kind of use to go house shopping. Also during this process, it's great to determine what you want in a home, your wants, your needs, focusing more on those needs, especially as first-time home buyers. And then I do recommend that you find an agent to help you during this process. It's a huge investment that you're making, your life savings that you're spending at this time. And so taking the extra time and money to get a real estate agent, they can help you shave off some of those costs and really find a better deal for you. Now it's time to go house hunting. Take a look at Zillow. We love Zillow. Now it's on to making an offer, and if that offer is accepted, then you will most likely need to get an appraisal, which is something required by lenders to make sure that the listing price of the house matches the price that they come up with. An inspection is something that you hire somebody to do to look at the roof and look at the plumbing to make sure that the structure of the home is great before you can move in. And then you move on to closing on your new home. That is where you come to us at Alliance Title and Escrow. That's just one of the companies here in Rexburg to help you wire the money and pay off mortgages and help you with title insurance. So lots of fun legal things. All right, let's get to the nitty-gritty. How much is a mortgage really? Here we have a little bit of a fixer-upper. Looks like maybe the carpets are new, maybe there's some updates, but not much curb appeal. But it is 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Great starter home. We have let's look at some crucial numbers right here. Say we put down the crucial number 20%. That's $55,000 that we would need to save up. And our credit score is at the magic number of 680. That puts our monthly number at $1,640. This is great news. This is close to many of our rent. In Salt Lake City, the typical rent for a 2-bedroom is around $2,000. Like this is lower. You can be building equity. You guys, we can do this. We just need to save our pennies and we can get there. Here I've changed a few numbers. We've put 4% down, which is we've saved $10,000, and our credit score isn't so great, which if you are approved, you could have a monthly mortgage payment of $2,000. This is my dream home, dream starter home. It's cute, it's new, it's in a nice neighborhood. Price tag is a little bit more, but with a 20% down payment, which is a little heftier, I can have a monthly mortgage payment of, again, $2,000. Notice here that this is based at what the going rate is, interest rate, 6%. Here, I have made a couple changes. First, to the interest rate, I've lowered it to 4.5, which hopefully in the next 4 years, we can hope and pray that it will go down. And I've lowered the down payment by $40,000, but still, that monthly payment is around $2,000. So, just goes to show the importance of interest rates. So, now that you guys have a little more education under your belt, I hope and pray that you feel a little bit more confident and able in your abilities to work towards buying a home. I know that we as Generation Z can buy homes, and if you want it, make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we'll have Julia. Julia is a junior at BYU, Idaho, studying communications. She enjoys everything outdoors, including skiing, rock climbing, camping, surfing, river rafting, roller skating, and so much more. Her passion in the outdoors has brought her new experiences and learning, so we're excited to hear her speak on lessons from the river. Everyone welcome Julia Hayden.
Mr. Worldwide, back at your home. Let's get this thing jumping. Hold up.
I want you to imagine this. You're sitting on the back of a raft and you're floating down the river. There's 10 people on your raft and they're all 12 years old. You're turning the next corner, and around this corner is the biggest rapid of the day. These 12-year-olds are not very good at paddling. If you don't hit this next rapid head on, you're going to flip your boat. You have the lives of these 12-year-olds in your hands. This was me all summer long. I had the lives of passengers in my hands all day long, every day as a river guide. I was a river guide on the Colorado River, based outside of Moab, Utah. It was a very stressful job. However, even amidst the stress, I was able to learn so many important life lessons. Today, I'm here to tell you that spending time outdoors and in nature can teach you lessons about life, and valuable ones at that. I'm going to outline 5 different things that I learned just because I spent time outdoors. First off, don't miss takeout. At the beginning of the day, you get onto your boat, you're headed down the river, and the last part of the river, you have to get out at takeout. You have to get this ramp. If you miss this ramp, you might miss it by a couple feet, maybe a couple yards. I've seen people miss it by a long shot, but if they miss it, they have to get into the bushes, lift the raft above their head, paddle in one hand, and bushwhack all the way back. And most of the time, the other river guides would make fun of each other. So, missing takeout isn't the end of the world, but you don't want to do it. I compare this to missing opportunities. Why might a river guide miss takeout? They get stuck in the current, or they don't plan ahead. They don't think about where the takeout is. Maybe they get busy chatting, or they're swimming, or they're in the river and they don't realize that takeout is coming so fast. This can apply to us as college students. We miss opportunities all the time. We get stuck in the current. We get too focused in our flow, and we don't realize that maybe there's someone who needs help around us. So, to not miss takeout, we have to think ahead. You have to plan ahead of what you want your opportunities to look like. You have to make sure that if you want that job, you have to apply for it. If you don't apply for it, you probably, most likely, definitely will not get it. If you don't ask out that girl or that guy, you are probably never going to go on a date with them. So think ahead, plan for the opportunities. Don't miss takeout. Next, tee up. The biggest rapid on the Colorado Daily section is called Whites. In high water, on peak season, it's classified as 3 or 4 out of 5 rapid. When you approach whites, you have to hit it head on. So here's the rapid coming at you like this. Your boat has to make a tee towards it. That's called tee up. You are always reminded, make sure you tee up to the rapids. Whites has 2 giant roller waves, and if you don't hit it straight on, you could flip. That almost happened to me a couple times because I had 12-year-olds on my boat, and so if you don't hit it right, you're gonna flip. But this can be compared to our lives as well. If you have problems coming at you, you can prepare ahead. Like Lexi talked about in her speech, if you prepare ahead and you learn how to buy a house beforehand, when the time comes, you're going to be prepared. Of course, life sometimes throws things at us that we can't always prepare for. However, if you prepare and just equip yourself with the right skills, you can be prepared for anything. You can tee up to that wave and you'll be able to get over anything. Next, the river gives and the river takes. This is a common little folklore saying that is said amongst river guides. Sometimes it's known as go with the flow, but the river gives and the river takes. This last summer, I lost 3 of my most favorite hats to the river. Kind of material, but 3 of my favorite hats, and it kept happening, and only to me. I don't know how, but the wind would take them or I'd fall in the river and they would float past me and I just couldn't get them back. However, everyone would always say, the river gives and the river takes. The river took my hats, but the river gave me so many new opportunities and friends. I love that about the river. For us, this is so true. Sometimes we have opportunities taken away from us. We have friends or relationships that we lose, but there's always a plan. We can always receive something else. God, of course, has a greater plan for us. If we lose something or if something doesn't go exactly our way, God will always replace or just help us by blessing us. Next, even the river finds peace. The river, in river world, it's measured, the speed of the river is measured by CFS. That's cubic feet per second. Imagine a river, and across the width of the river, you place a string. Every single second, the amount of cubic feet passes that string is how you count the flow. So on the Colorado River, the section we were running, on the highest day of the season, it was running 26,000 cubic feet per second. That's pretty fast. And of course, there are fast and there are slower parts of the river. So a slower part of the river is called an eddy. If there's a cove on the outside or like an outcropping on the side of the river, the water will run past it and then fill in that empty space backwards. So I think it is so beautiful that even nature finds a time to be peaceful and still even move backwards. In our lives, we get so caught up in schoolwork. We just put our head forward and we get stuck in that flow and we're moving quickly. We have relationships to keep up with, school, callings, jobs, all these things that we're busy doing, but we can learn from nature. We can find that moment to be still and find that peace. So as a river guide, we would use these eddies to pull our boats off to the side of the river, to wait for the boats behind us to catch up, or just to take a moment to admire the beautiful nature around us. Even the river finds peace, and you can too. Lastly, read and run. This is a common phrase again in river guiding. Because the river rises and falls, the flow of the river, a rapid can look so differently on Wednesday than on Friday because the river drops or the river rises. So when you're approaching a new rapid, you have to know how to run it. And if you don't, you assess it. You see where are the currents going? Where are the waves crashing? Where are the rocks? Where are the current lines? Where are the eddies? You have to just read the situation and then run it with the best of your ability. One weekend, my friends and I decided to go on a midnight river run. We took kayaks down the river and it was pitch black. We had to rely on what we knew. Luckily, it was the section of the river that we ran every single day and took so many passengers down. So we had to rely on the sounds of the river, where the rapids were, and we had to look at the rock formations to where we were. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations like this. It's completely dark. We don't know where we're going next. You have to rely on what you know. This is an important lesson that I learned just from the river. So, read and run. Lastly, I know it's not every day that you get to go river rafting or river guiding, but even here in Rexburg, you can find lessons outdoors and you can find lessons in nature. So I thought I would share some of my favorite places and things to do in Rexburg. Luckily, we have the ORC, or the Outdoor Resource Center. Coming up is winter, and it's a little bit harder to get outside when it's not sunny and warm, but snow provides an amazing opportunity to learn lessons outside. One of my favorite things to do is ski, and so this coming season, you could go to the ORC and rent all the gear that you need to go skiing or snowboarding, and then go to Kelly Canyon for the day. I could give a whole speech about lessons that I've learned skiing. Imagine how many lessons you could learn if you just spent a little bit of time outdoors every week or every day. The lessons that you can learn from nature are endless. Luckily, you don't have the lives of 10, 12-year-olds in your hands, but as you go outdoors, you can start to learn these lessons too. Thank you.
3, 2, 1, let's go now. We are gonna put a party something. Let's go twerking, jumping.
Next up, we have Morgan Thrasher, who is a published journalist. Morgan once won 3rd place at state in sporting clays, which is a shotgun sport, and she insists on using paper scriptures and enjoys a bit of sewing when she has the time. Everyone, let's welcome Morgan Thrasher.
This is my fight song. Take back my life song. Prove I'm alright song.
Hello, I'm so grateful to be able to speak to you today. I would like to speak about how to deal with feeling rejected by God. About 2 years ago, I was preparing to go on my mission. And I started by hitting the field, as one does. And when I started, I looked like this, you know, happy, full of life, ready to go out there and serve the Lord. And then it progressed to this pretty fast. And I lived here for a really long time. To help you understand, I would like to show you a little bit of a timeline of my mission. In January 2020 is when I started my mission. It's when I hit the mission field. And in my first week, I started feeling very ill. The type of ill where you feel so sick, kind of like after Thanksgiving when you've eaten too much, where you have to lay down for like 3 to 8 hours to digest it all. But instead of eating a lot, I was eating kind of little, and I was still feeling that way. It didn't help that soon after that, Mission Medical started looking into me after they saw an amazing picture. And they went, "Oh, girlie, you're too thin to be out here. Your BMI is too low to be a missionary. You weren't supposed to make it out." So their solution was to send me to an online counselor to make sure I didn't have an eating disorder. And if you know me and have spent time eating meals around me, you would know that I don't have an eating disorder. I knew, my parents knew, anybody who paid 2 minutes of attention knew. But it had to be confirmed to make sure that I was still able to serve. The other problem with me serving my mission is I was serving in a part bike area for my first area. I learned how to ride a bike about 4 months before I went on my mission, when I got my call, you know. And then I couldn't eat enough calories during those meals to stay on the bike. I would be riding home, and it would just be 2 miles. And I would be crying and dry heaving and trying to keep up with my companion because I did not have enough energy in my body to keep going, and I had to make it home. And every night during this time, I prayed to God. And I said, "God, I'm here for you. Like, I'm here to be your missionary. I'm here to do your will. But if you're going to send me home, please do it. Like, I'm suffering. I apparently have anxiety. That's new. I can't eat enough. I can't keep going like this. So please either sustain me or send me home." And I prayed this morning, noon, and night. Tears littered my pillow more than I could ever count. And I stayed out. And talk about not even feeling like your prayer hit the ceiling. I felt like it didn't even get off my bed as I was praying. So, in May of 2023, I was sent home. If you calculate that time, it's about 4 months that I was out on my mission. It took me a month to get into a doctor's office to be able to get anxiety medication, start treatment for that. And then we started looking into what was wrong with my digestive system. Why could I eat so little and why was it making me feel so sick? But during this time, while I was doing testing, I served in the temple every week. It was really hard because there was some days where I barely even believed in God, and then there were some days where I was only going because I made a commitment to be there. In September of 2023, I made it back to BYUI. That's 4.5 months right there where I was just stuck at home, stagnant. I learned in that first week back that I had some testing done and my gallbladder was only working at about 35%, and that was one of my biggest problems. Turns out my body really likes to make tiny little rocks, and that is not very comfortable, let me tell you. And to this day, we're still trying to figure out what is completely going on with me. During my mission, I learned a lot of lessons from my companions, but this sums up my trials and tribulations with them. From Sister Wright, I learned that it's okay to lean on others during hard times. From Sister Fish, I learned that pushing through is a necessary evil. And I learned from Sister Holman that it's okay to choose the lesser hard thing. It was a rough year, and I felt like I was all on my own, even with my companions. They tried to be there for me, but when you don't feel the love of God in your everyday life, trying to serve Him, it's hard to keep on going. This is a very big part of my life that I learned, looking back on my mission, that there's a reason God lets prophets die and missionaries return home. It's the same reason. It's because something new needs to be done in your life. And it's okay to mourn what you thought was going to be, but you have to mourn it knowing that there is more to come for you. This is President and Sister Mora. This is a very similar picture to what got Mission Medical looking into everything about me. They're the ones who sent me home. They were the ones who were willing to fight for me to stay out as long as I wanted to be out. They were the ones who told me it was okay to be going home early, and it was hard to believe them. Because sometimes people lie just to make you feel better. But I learned a few things that came about because I was sent home early. I got to see my niece grow up from just being a little child. Now she's a toddler running around. I got to have surgery to have my gallbladder removed. Thank goodness. I got to see and be a bridesmaid in one of my best friend's weddings. And I got to meet a whole lot of people that I would have never met before, that have helped me learn and love in this life. I've learned very much that things don't go always to plan. And one of the things I learned was life is kind of like a pattern. You try to choose what you think will look good on you, and you pin it down. You're like, yeah, I really like praying, and I'm going to serve a mission when I grow a foot or two. And you pin it all down. You're like, this is going to come out so nice. And then you cut it out, and it's like, ooh, this is a lot of pieces. And then you try to put them together, and you're like, that doesn't look right. This is what I wasn't planning for this to look like at all. Whoops. And then you're like, ooh, I sewed that seam wrong. Got to fix my mistake. And during all this time, you're like, why wasn't I imbued with the power to make things correctly? And so we have to think about ourselves and our mortality and how we create things, how we want our future lives to look. But to God, it's not mortality. It's eternity that He's looking at. So this is a quote from my dear, beloved temple matron, kindergarten teacher. She says, on a scale of now to eternity, how much does this matter? How much does it matter that you failed your test? On the scale of eternity. God's not going to write you off for that one. How much does it matter that someone broke up with you? Well, obviously they weren't going to be your eternal companion, so it doesn't matter. Of course it does in the moment, it hurts. Right now, it hurts when someone dies, but I know that I'm going to be able to see him again. This is a mortality problem, not an eternity problem. So what will you do to become closer to God, to make sure that you don't find his absence in your life? Here's a few suggestions I have. List things that make you angry, things that make you want to cry and you would rather curl up and die than face. And then leave them there. Don't let them be your problem anymore. Write them down, feel them, burn it, lock it away. I don't care. It's not your problem anymore. Or you can find a routine way to connect to God. I did this by serving at the temple. It was great for me because I got to have a routine schedule that I knew what was going to happen, and I was expected to be there and expected to do something. And if I didn't, I was going to disappoint someone. I hate disappointing people. Another thing is to read New Testament stories after Jesus left. The apostles were kind of lost, and I feel like that sometimes. Because Jesus actually never truly left them. He never truly leaves you. And the last thing is keep living your covenants, whatever they may be. If you've committed to God that you'll pray once a week, keep praying. But you're not going to learn to love anything you do for him if you do not make it a part of your life. And remember, during any of these, if you feel the power of the Holy Ghost, then you have accepted the power of Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Lastly, we have Anna, who is a Utah native and self-proclaimed classic rock enthusiast. Anna brings her love of creativity and music to the professional presentation stage. As a Utah State and soon-to-be BYU Idaho graduate, when she's not wrangling pixels at work or in class, you can find her listening to her 2,000-plus liked songs on Spotify with a Dr. Pepper in hand. Everyone welcome Anna.
How would you respond if I told you that time machines existed? Would you believe me? Now you might be skeptical, but I can confidently tell you that there is a way to transport yourself back in time. Now I'm not talking about some futuristic sci-fi portal with flashing lights and blinking buttons, or an old car whose speed caps out at 88 miles per hour, or even a futuristic telephone box that can take you back to the time of Napoleon. What I am talking about is something far more simple, something that we interact with often, and probably even on a daily basis. Music. Music Now you're probably asking yourself, that sounds overly simple, right? How can my perfectly curated Spotify playlist defy the laws of time and space and take me back in time? And that's a great question. I'd love to answer that. In 2023, a study was done by some music psychologists in the UK on memory cues. They had participants keep a 4-day diary and track every piece of music that prompted and sparked an autobiographical memory. Now, even compared to other common memory cues like specific smells or specific foods, they found that music prompted significantly more memories within the minds of their participants compared to any other factor. And not only did it prompt more memories, but the memories that were prompted were significantly more important, were ranked consistently more important to the lives of those participants than any other criteria. So, because our brains constantly is taking in so much information and new experiences, our minds will often separate these memories and these experiences into types of mental episodes, much like you would see on your favorite sitcom. And these episodes, when brought together, make up our very own personal narratives and our life stories. Now, I'm going to coin these pieces of music that prompt autobiographical memories as time machine songs. And I'd like to share a couple real-life examples of time machine songs and their transportative, I don't know if that's a word. Anyways, their ability to transport us into time. So I'm going to start with my own.
I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight, I need you.
This song, Levitating by Dua Lipa, when I hear it, I am transported back to my high school cafeteria on a random Friday night in April of 2021. I'm dancing and singing my heart out at my senior cotillion. Now, in addition, they had cleared out all the tables and chairs, and they brought in a DJ that they hired for the night. In addition to all 800 of my graduating class, we were even lucky enough to cut a rug with some of our favorite teachers and mentors that were there. When I hear that song, I am surrounded by some of my best friends. I'm dancing like a maniac, covered in a disgusting amount of sweat, some of which is not my own. And there was a weightless hope that I feel in that moment and when I listen to this song. I simultaneously feel, and in that moment, I simultaneously felt like I had my whole life ahead of me, and yet I had it all figured out. I can confidently tell you that I did not have it all figured out as a senior in high school, nor do I now. But those memories and that experience is something that I will treasure forever, and I will relive every time I hear this song. Now I'm going to set the scene for our next time machine destination. The year is 1997, and you're a senior in high school. The cute boy that you like has gone out of his way to plan a fun day for just the two of you. He takes you up to his family's cabin in the mountains. You guys drive four-wheelers, you explore the property, and you enjoy the scenery. Now, an important detail I should add is that you have yet to have your first kiss, and this boy happens to know that. And this boy has alluded to remedying that. And what better place to have your first kiss than a beautiful cabin in the mountains, right? I mean, this is romance novel level opportunity here. But much to your dismay, he doesn't make any moves. So the day goes on, and you find yourself later that night in his backyard on his trampoline, which anyone in their right mind would tell you that a backyard trampoline is far more romantic than a cabin in the woods. So at 10:37 p.m. precisely, he proceeds to kiss you before driving you home before curfew. You get in the car and you flip on the radio, and what song happens to be playing but
Kiss me out of the bearded barley nightly beside the green grass.
what are the chances? How weirdly spot on is that for your current situation? So you both laugh innocently and flick to a second station to, change the mood. What's playing again, but
Kiss me beneath the milky twilight.
a second radio station is playing the exact same song at the exact same time. So you chuckle again, a little more awkward this time, and uncomfortably switch it to a third station, trying to escape this borderline awkward situation.
So kiss me.
Kiss Me by Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer is playing for a third time on a third radio station. Now, this was 1997, so it was long before the days of digital playlists and cues, which makes it even funnier. Now, because of that hilarious and painfully ironic instance, my mother cannot hear this song without thinking about her first kiss, which I might add is not with my now father. We're going to change pace again, set the scene for our second destination. It takes place at a similar time, but is a little less eventful than the first one. It's the late 90s, and it's the summer before your mission. You and your friends all got hired to work at the same lawn mowing company, and your job over the summer is to mow every church building lawn from St. Anthony to Pocatello, Idaho, which is roughly a 90-mile spread, and is a seriously impressive undertaking. It's in the morning, 10 a.m., you just finished your first building of the day, and you hop in the car with your buddy that you were paired with today to go mow the lawns. You call your other friends who are also amateur landscapers with you on your car phone, because cell phones were not a thing at that time, and you check in and touch base before you head off to go get lunch with them. You close up shop, you put all the gear on your car, roll down the windows, start the car, and start driving to lunch. And this song, as if it was in a movie, starts playing in the distance.
I just wanna fly. I wear you want, put your arms around me, babe.
Fly by Sugar Ray. And this story and this Time Machine song belong to our very own brother Hacky. When I asked him what memories this evoked, he said, driving and mowing, good times. This final Time Machine destination is one of my personal favorites. Now imagine with me, if you will, that you're a student at BYU Idaho. I know that's hard, but stay with me. It's a random Tuesday, and you get a call from one of the sisters that you minister to. And she asks if you and your roommate can come over to give her a priesthood blessing because she's not feeling great. You agree, and you go over to the apartment, and as you're preparing to give the blessing, a random song comes into your head.
Hold me closer, time to dance. Count the headlights on the highway.
Now that's a little strange, especially considering the current circumstance and what you're about to do. So you push it to the side and you move on and you go sing. Throughout the rest of that semester, you continue to get to know and minister to these sisters in that apartment. And there's one that particularly continues to pique your interest, the same one that you gave a blessing to. Now, I should add, this same sister is a dance performance major, a passion that sparked when she was little and has since informed her future career ambitions and her studies in college. So, one night, as you're considering the possibilities and where you stand in your relationship with her, suddenly a song starts playing in your head.
Hold me closer, time to dance. Count the headlights on the highway.
Months later, you find yourself in the middle of a beautiful venue surrounded by family and friends, dancing with your new wife, that same sister, and experiencing your first dance as a married couple to Tiny Dancer by Elton John. Now, we can see that these Time Machine songs, like all memories, come in a wide variety of contexts and significance. And it can take us back to times gone by, whether it's an awkward interaction with a boy, or a fun and memorable summer, or a life-changing decision. Music isn't just a combination of rhythm and notes and various harmonies. It's the soundtrack to our lives. It's a portal to our past, a bridge to our present, and a glimpse into our future. Music has the ability to evoke these emotions, to spark memories, and to define who we are. It's something that can take us back to a nostalgic place and rekindle a memory that we forgot we had. So, next time you listen to the music, stop and think. Feel where it takes you. Experience that memory. Or the next time you're listening to your favorite song, be sure to pause and reflect. Reflect on, again, the emotions it gives you, the memories it evokes, and the person that it inspires you to become, or even get back in touch with. So, my question for you is, what's your Time Machine song? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming today. And we would just like to welcome our speakers back on stage for one last round of applause. And then we would also like to just give a special thanks to Brother Hacky for helping us all out and for being the best teacher after they're done doing that. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great rest of your day.
Applause, applause, I live for the applause.